the hidden cost of always winning. Hey there, curious minds. How are you doing? Today we're doing something a little different. We're going to dive deep into a topic we all think we know, but we'll do it by spiraling down through 5 levels of understanding, each one deeper and more revealing than the last. The topic is victory, success, the relentless human need to win. We all feel it, we all pursue it. But have you ever stopped to consider its true cost? The price we pay for always being on top? And trust me, this deep dive is worth it. Because this drive, this thirst for victory, is no trivial matter. It's one of the most powerful forces shaping our lives, our decisions, and indeed, our entire civilization. I'll make you a promise. By the time we reach the final level, by the end of this video, the word success will hold a completely new and much deeper meaning for you. Let's start at level 1, the surface of the known. What's the first thing that comes to mind when we think about winning? Simple. It feels incredibly good. It's the euphoria of applause, recognition, the medal on your chest. At its core, it's a feeling of validation. It's our brain telling us you've done well. You're competent. You're valuable. It's one of the most powerful emotions we can experience. Of course, there's also the more popular visible aspect, tangible rewards. Money, social status, the opportunities that suddenly open up when you're the winner. And this pursuit of rewards affects our daily behavior. It's why you stay up late studying, why you train an extra hour, why you fight for that promotion at work. Think of a universal example, the feeling you get when you win a simple board game with friends or family. That little burst of joy, that brief moment of being the best. That drive is the same, on a smaller scale, that moves Olympic athletes. And there's a third basic fact. Our society adores winners. We tell their stories in movies, write books about them, erect statues in their honor. They are our cultural heroes. But where does all this come from? Its origin is very, very ancient. We have to look at our own evolution as a species. Imagine for a moment our ancestors on the savannah. The individual who was a better hunter, stronger, or more intelligent didn't just get more food. They gained the group's respect, more security, and crucially, a higher probability of passing on their genes. Our brain is fundamentally wired with that survival software. Everything we've discussed so far is just the tip of the iceberg. It's what we all see, what we all accept as the nature of victory. But if this is what we see on the surface, what secret engines are driving it from beneath? Welcome to level 2, the hidden mechanisms. And here's the first big secret, a molecule in your brain called dopamine. It's often called the pleasure molecule, but that's not entirely accurate. It's more accurately the motivation molecule. And this is the first major revelation. The biggest dopamine spike doesn't happen when you win. It happens in the anticipation of potential victory. Our brain doesn't reward us so much for the achievement, but for the pursuit. And that's why, precisely why, it's so addictive. Now, this knowledge has a dual application. First, the opportunity. You can use this mechanism to your advantage to stay motivated on long and difficult projects. For instance, instead of having the gigantic goal of writing a book, you can break it down into small victories, writing 1 page today. Every time you hit that mini goal, your brain gives you a small dopamine reward, a chemical nudge that encourages you to keep going. You are, quite literally, hacking your own motivation system. But of course, there's the other side of the coin, the risk. Understanding this mechanism allows you to see the danger in many modern life situations. The dopamine loop driven by the anticipation of a reward is the exact engine behind gambling addiction or social media addiction. The thrill isn't in what you see, but in the possibility of the next notification, the next like. It's the same system, but used to keep you hooked. Now let's talk about a second process, governed by an invisible rule that we all follow without realizing it. It's the rule of social comparison. This rule, etched into our brains, states the following. My success isn't measured in a vacuum, but in relation to others. It's not enough for us to do well. We need to do better than the person next to us. Let me give you an example you've surely felt. Imagine you get a raise. You feel great, but the next day you find out your office colleague got a raise twice as big. Suddenly your victory feels like a defeat. That's social comparison at its finest. This leads us to an internal structure of our thinking, the tendency to view the world as a zero-sum game. This idea is connected to something psychologists call the zero-sum bias. It's the intuitive but often incorrect belief that for me to win, someone else has to lose. Think of it as a factory error in our mental software. It comes from a time when resources like food or territory were finite. If another tribe got the best water hole, ours lost out. Our brain defaults to applying that ancestral logic to modern situations where it isn't always true. So how can we counteract this? There's a very powerful mental strategy. Actively seek out non-zero-sum games, or, to put it more simply, situations where everyone can win. Next time you feel that pang of envy or competitiveness, pause for a second. Recognize that you might be falling into the zero-sum trap. And ask yourself, does this person's success truly take something away from me? You'll be surprised how often the honest answer is no. In fact, this idea of public competition goes way back. Think of the ancient Greeks and their concept of agon. Agon means struggle, competition. Their entire society, from the Olympic Games to their theater festivals, was built on public competitions to demonstrate excellence and win honor. And here's a practical lesson for today. We've culturally inherited this idea that our worth must constantly be proven in a public arena. But our lives aren't the ancient Olympics, and maybe, just maybe, we don't need to compete all the time. All of this leads us to a key real-life deduction, a principle that emerges from all these mechanisms. And the general rule is this: external success does not guarantee internal satisfaction. The thrill of winning is temporary, but the pressure to win again is constant. It's like a treadmill that speeds up every time you reach the end. So, the next time you pursue a goal with all your might, ask yourself this crucial question: am I pursuing the achievement itself, or am I pursuing the feeling I believe that achievement will give me? Understanding that difference can change everything. Understanding these hidden drivers isn't meant to make you stop wanting to improve or achieve goals. The goal is for you to compete in a smarter, more conscious, and above all, healthier way for yourself. But if you thought we had it all figured out, get ready, because here's where the story turns into real chaos. We're entering level 3, the chaos of reality, debates, and complexities. And here we hit the first major controversy. Is our obsession with winning a driver of progress for humanity, or is it a source of toxicity that's making us sick? Basically, there are two camps. One camp argues that competition brings out the best in us, driving innovation, technology, and excellence. The other camp contends that it creates anxiety-ridden societies, where collaboration withers and mental health plummets. And what's at stake is fundamental. For the first group, what's risked if we stop competing is advancement as a species. For the second, what's risked if we continue down this path is our well-being as a species. Now let's challenge a popular belief that's closely tied to this: the idea that we live in a meritocracy, a system where success goes to those who most deserve it through effort and talent. Here we need to debunk a widespread myth, the myth that the hardest worker always wins. Large studies on social mobility, which analyze how people move up or down the economic ladder, demonstrate time and again that your starting point, that is, the family and the zip code where you're born, remains one of the strongest predictors of where you'll end up. So why do we love believing in that myth? The reason is psychological. Believing in a fair world gives us a sense of control over our destiny. It's comforting. Accepting that chance and privilege play a huge role is much scarier. And this leads us to one of the great paradoxes of the topic. I call it the paradox of success. It goes like this. Often, the very qualities that help you win in your career, like relentless obsession, fierce competitiveness, or dedicating all your time, are the same qualities that sabotage and destroy other important areas of your life, such as your health, your friendships, or your romantic relationships. It's a dilemma without an easy solution. Let's now adopt a slightly more critical viewpoint. Let's think about the language we use without questioning it. For example, we celebrate what many call the culture of sacrifice, or using a very trendy English expression, hustle culture. Essentially, it's the idea that working yourself to exhaustion is admirable. But let's pause and think, aren't we simply putting an attractive name on self-exploitation? Isn't it a way of romanticizing burning out from within? And here enters another fascinating controversy, the role of luck in success. Our way of viewing it has changed over time. Centuries ago, it was common to attribute great success to fortune or the favor of the gods. Today, in our merit-based culture, we feel very uncomfortable admitting the influence of chance. We want to feel that all the credit is ours. But the reality is that the being in the right place at the right time factor holds immense power. All this obsession with winning touches a very deep chord of the human condition. It touches our fundamental need to feel that our life matters, to leave a mark on the world. And it poses a fundamental problem for us as a species, one we still haven't solved. How can we build solid, healthy self-esteem that doesn't depend on constantly being better than others? As you can see, the reality of winning isn't a simple straight line to happiness. It's a complex labyrinth, full of contradictions, ethical debates, and paradoxes that affect us all. You've survived the chaos. Now it's time to look at the details that separate the curious from the true insiders. Welcome to Level 4, Expert Knowledge, Niche Secrets. And here I present a concept you won't find in a quick search, the winner-take-all effect. This is a principle in economics and sociology that describes how, in certain fields, minuscule differences in performance lead to gigantically disproportionate rewards. The second best might be 99.9% as good as the first, but they take home only a small fraction of the prize. Let me explain it with a very simple analogy. Imagine a horse race where the winner beats the second place by just a nose. An insignificant difference. However, that horse takes home the entire grand prize. The second place, who is almost equally fast, gets very little or nothing. That's how many markets work today. Technology, music, sports. Small advantages, massive rewards. And speaking of expert knowledge, let me tell you about a key but often overlooked figure, the sociologist Robert K. Merton. Merton was a true unsung hero in this field. Long before anyone else talked about it, he described something he called the Matthew effect, based on a phrase from the Bible. It's basically the idea that to those who have, more will be given. He discovered that scientists who are already famous receive much more credit and recognition for their discoveries than unknown scientists, even when the work is identical or collaborative. He warned us that success accumulates upon itself, creating a snowball effect. Now let me introduce you to an alternative theory, a somewhat rebellious theory that clashes with the traditional view of success. It's the black swan theory, popularized by the thinker Nassim Nicholas Taleb. His perspective is completely different. He suggests that history, and with it great successes, are not driven by what is predictable and constant, but by massive, completely unexpected, and tremendously impactful events, black swans. From this perspective, many of history's big winners aren't so because they were consistently the best, but because they were in the right position to capitalize on a totally unpredictable event. And this leads us to a detail of scientific research that directly clashes with our intuition. Studies in the psychology of success have found that in many, many fields, the people who reach the very top are not always the most talented or the hardest workers. And this is shocking to us because our intuition tells us that success should be a straight line. More talent and more effort equal more success. But reality is much more chaotic, random, and at times unfair. It clashes with our deep need to believe that we live in an ordered and predictable world. Now, one last expert detail that will connect several ideas we've already discussed. Let's talk about a phenomenon called hedonic adaptation. Remember how at the beginning of the video we said the feeling of winning is powerful but temporary? Well, hedonic adaptation is the scientific term for that phenomenon. It's the natural tendency of human beings to return to a more or less stable level of happiness, regardless of the great triumphs or tragedies we experience. Aha! This is the mechanism that explains why victory is never enough in the long run. Our brain is designed so that the finish line always moves a little further away after you cross it. With this level of detail, the idea of winning ceases to be a simple trophy or a celebration. It becomes what it truly is, an incredibly complex system, full of hidden dynamics, biases, and traps for our intuition. From here on, we're entering uncharted territory. Do you dare to look towards the final frontier? We are at level 5, the final frontier, speculation and awe. And the first futuristic idea we must consider is this. What if we could genetically engineer human beings to have a higher probability of winning? How might the idea of winning evolve in the next 100 years? It's possible that the fiercest competition will no longer be between humans, but between humans enhanced by technology and artificial intelligence. What will winning mean when a machine can surpass any human performance in any imaginable field? And this is where science hits its own limits. We can measure hormones, we can scan brains, we can analyze data, but we cannot answer the most fundamental question of all. What is the ultimate purpose of winning? What is all this cosmic effort for? When science stops, philosophy must take over. Thinkers like the Stoic philosophers of ancient Greece and Rome, for example, would tell us that we've been playing the wrong game all this time. That true victory isn't external against other people, but internal. The victory over our own uncontrolled impulses, our fears, and our insatiable desires. And here's an implication that might make your head spin. Think about it for a second. If our consciousness, our self, is simply the product of a brain that has been sculpted by millions of years of evolution for a single purpose, to survive and reproduce, in other words, to win the evolutionary game, is our search for meaning and purpose something real, or is it just a sophisticated byproduct of that primary drive? This question connects directly with the future of humanity. Our obsession with win-lose competition is at the root of many of our biggest global problems, from geopolitical tensions to the climate crisis, which is a struggle for resources. Therefore, learning to change the game to evolve from a I win, you lose mentality to an either we all win or we all lose one could be the key skill, the only truly important one, that determines our survival and prosperity as a species on this planet. And here's the last idea, the most provocative statement of this entire journey. Perhaps the greatest price we pay for being obsessed with always winning is that we lose the ability to ask ourselves if we're playing the right game. We've become experts in strategies for winning, but we've completely forgotten to ask why we're playing. And with that question lingering in the air, our descent through the 5 levels of understanding has concluded. Now let's take a breath and contemplate the full panorama we've traversed. At the beginning of this video, we started with a very simple and familiar idea, the pure and thrilling joy of winning a game. Remember that feeling? That simple celebration, that moment of euphoria? Now, contrast that idea directly with the last one we've explored, the possibility that the very future of humanity depends on our ability to transcend that very idea of winning. We've journeyed from dopamine in our brains to the ethical dilemmas of genetic editing, from the psychology of comparison to the philosophy of purpose. It's been an incredible transformation of a simple idea into a universe of complexity. And now, the question is for you. From this entire journey, what idea, what concept, what level has impacted you the most and changed, even a little, your way of viewing success? I want to sincerely thank you for your time, your attention, and your curiosity in making it to the end of this deep journey. I'd love to read your thoughts in the comments. This channel is a dialogue, not a monologue, and your perspective enriches this entire community. If these kinds of deep dives fascinate you as much as they do me, consider subscribing so you don't miss the next adventure. And if you think this video could offer something to someone you know, share it with them. Keep questioning, keep exploring, because understanding the world is always the first step toward changing it for the better. Until next time, are you winning at life or is life winning against you?